My name is Neerav Vyas. I'm the head of analytics for Realogy Holdings. We're the world's largest residential real estate company. We own Century 21, Corcoran, Sotheby's, Coldwell Banker, Climb, and we also own a relocation company called Curtis. We have a number of different use cases for Neo. Fundamentally for us, what ends up happening is we have customer transactions that happen across multiple different channels, websites, in person with our agents, and a number of different events that are occurring. People buy or sell a home, they change the price on the home, the listings, and then there's the transactional component with the agent themselves. Who did you use? How did you buy it? Did you use them for the list side and the buy side? So we use Neo to get a full and holistic understanding of our customer ecosystem that goes from B to B to C. So it really helps us to truly understand the environment, the ecosystem, and get a human-centered view of our business, our operations, and how we're interacting with our clients and customers, be that our agents or brokers, or be that the end consumer who's buying or selling the home. I'll put in a couple of really interesting insights, right? The first and foremost is that we found that the relationship that we have between our agents and other agents in their network, so people they do deals with, how often they do those deals, right? That's a very strong connective tissue between stopping them from leaving the company. So more relationships you have, the less likely you are to leave the company. At the same point in time, we were closing a whole bunch of different offices. And when we close offices, the relationships decrease. So it was a really interesting insight where we said, all right, we want to build and foster these relationships and communities to stop our agents from leaving, but at the same time, we're doing things operationally that might make that situation worse. So A, should we stop closing offices? Or B, what other operational activities would we take to help foster better community? So it's a way that we took this insight that came out of the graph and actually used it to inform our operations and kind of change the strategy that the organization was taking. Yeah, I mean, I've used Neo for a number of different clients across industries, across experiences. I think A was just the familiarity of using Neo and Cypher and the fact that it's easy and the fact that you're an industry standard. So that's one. But I think, again, having knowledgeable resources and materials, having a lot of support from the community that's there, and then having a UI and interface that's easy to work with. I think those three components is why, increasing over the past few years, we've gravitated towards Neo. And then just kind of the kicker on it was the relationship between Databricks and Spark that was announced this year, that just kind of added onto it that said, yeah, this is going to be the scalable solution for us moving forward. The advice I would have for people that are getting started is there's a very strong tendency to have like the one graph to rule them all mentality, and I think that that's the wrong way to do it. I do think that we prioritize our use cases based on was there a use case where the graph that we built that could serve lots of different use cases, and that was absolutely true and tremendously valuable. But then even then, like I keep pushing the team, being like, all right, I'm going to ask you to do too much. I'm going to ask you to throw the kitchen sink in, and when I do that, you need to tell me no, right? And so that's the advice that I would give, is that recognize that you may have to create new data models and different solutions, and the underlying technology will stay the same, and maybe it will inform the way that you use your other use cases, but try not to do everything at once, even though it's very, very tempting. I think there's twofold, right? I think that a lot of the focus around Graph has been connective tissue across data, across different pieces of the enterprise, and how it makes that life easier, which is incredibly valuable. I think the next step as we move in, particularly as we think about AI and machine learning, is that the value in how we drive performance and algorithms comes from feature engineering. And I think that there's still a lot more education that needs to happen with individuals. And how do you take that insight from the graph, turn that into features that then power algorithms or AI solutions? And that could be with native graph algorithms, it could be with algorithms outside the box. So I really think the future is going to be moving more and more to using graph as a standard practice to accelerate innovation through machine learning and artificial intelligence.